All right, we've been watching the participants come in. It looks like we're stabilized. Maybe we can get started with everyone here. Thank you so much for joining us today on this visioning workshop for the Palo Alto Bicycle and Pedestrian Transportation Plan. We've got a great agenda for you today to help contribute to the development of this plan. My name is Nick Falbo. I am with a consulting firm called Mobicon. I'll be guiding us through this process and introducing the full project team in just a minute. I wanted to open up with telling you what you can expect out of today's workshop. This is our agenda for today with sort of rough time estimates. We're going to give you an introduction to the plan. For those of you who aren't familiar with what it entails, this will tell you what we've heard so far, what we're expecting out of the planning process. We'll be sharing with you some preliminary research on bikeability and micromobility, things that we've learned and heard. We'll spend most of the presentation on hearing from you. We'll use a variety of tools to engage with you today, including online survey tools, where you'll get to respond to us and see your results in real time. That'll help orient us as a team and as a community to get us warmed up for the interactive breakout room discussions that will follow. In the breakout rooms, you'll get to join a group of other community members in a discussion of the plan's vision. You'll be able to make direct suggestions and provide ideas to help shape the vision of this plan. We'll report that all back so you can hear other ideas that other groups have come up with that may be similar or different from your own. And then we'll close out today's session with a Q&A panel. This will be a chance to have staff answer some questions here at the end, make sure that you're able to learn what you want to learn and share what you want to share. If you're interested in submitting a question, there is a feature in Zoom for submitting a Q&A to the hosts. You can find that on your access bar and submit questions throughout the presentation, things you want to have answered. Potentially, we'll be answering them through the discussion today, but get them in there. We'll be grabbing questions and highlighting a few. We probably won't be able to get to all of them, but a handful of them during today's Q&A panel. Your input today in today's visioning workshop is really dealing at the highest level, the foundation of the values and the goals and the ideas that will go into this planning effort. This input will be translated into a vision, a more articulated statement about where we want to see the city go in the future when it comes to mobility and transportation. And then that will in turn identify clear objectives for walking and biking. Maybe this is things like more mid-block crosswalks or protected bike lanes. Those objectives will be turned into specific performance indicators, which can guide our analysis and planning effort. It'll help us make sure we're making recommendations that can get to the heart of what matters to the community. And it also can set us up to be measuring our success in the future so that years later, we can look at these performance indicators and see how we're doing. So you can kind of see how today's work and input will feed into the overall process and contribute and influence so much of where we're headed. You have a great team working on this project. It's led by Sylvia Starr-Lack and Ozzy Ars in the City Office of Transportation. They've hired a team led by Kittleson and Associates to develop this great plan. Kittleson is a leading planning firm specializing in integrating transportation and land use. Their team is led by Amanda Leahy and Dawal Kataria. And finally, I'm here with Mobicon, a Dutch-American consulting firm bringing inspiring mobility solutions from the Netherlands, one of the world's leading countries for bicycle mobility and compact pedestrian-oriented development. My name is Nick Falbo, and I'm working with my colleague Aka Ma, and we're guiding us through today's virtual visioning workshop session. I want to have Ozzy present some of this information, which is sort of background and information on the planning process.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks for that introduction. And thank you all for joining us tonight. I see some familiar faces and some new faces. So thank you for joining us for this visioning workshop. The city lastly updated its bicycle and pedestrian transportation plan in 2012, and prior to that developed a plan in 2003. So we're excited to be here in 2024 looking at this plan again in today's context. Some of the objectives are to seek community feedback through a variety of forums, such as those like tonight. We want to reevaluate the implementation progress from previous plans, that one in 2012, and adjust those recommendations for new policies, facilities, and programs. So again, policies where folks ride and some of those programs that encourage active transportation. We want to determine the appropriate criteria and metrics to prioritize recommendations and network routes, some of those priority projects that Nick was referring to. But it'll also investigate safety data and propose recommendations, explore the role of emerging transportation technologies such as e-bikes and micromobility, which we'll get into later in the presentation, and establish big picture planning to expand bicycling and walking for all types of users in support of the city's 2030 comprehensive plan, the SCAP, which is the Sustainability and Climate Action Plan, a safe system approach, which is a project that's in parallel with this BPTP update, and other planning documents and policies. We have a link there to the project webpage if you want to learn a bit more about the background. But at a high level, that's the objectives of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Transportation Plan, also referred to locally as the BPTP update. Next slide, please. Just really quick, because again, tonight's about you all, but just a quick note on where we've been and where we're looking to go. Currently at the developing the vision and goals, that's part of what tonight is about. But really, we began about 4 months ago, and you may have seen us at a few public committees, commissions, and a council update just last week. So we're definitely in it, and looking forward to furthering this process through the next year and a half. Next summer, so just from this phase, looking at the needs and concerns, and then shifting into recommendations, and ultimately looking at a plan adoption sometime next year. So I think that's the schedule at this point. Nick, if you want to take it back from here, appreciate it.
Thanks, Ozzy. I'm actually going to pass it over to Amanda to share a little bit more about what we've heard so far as we've been engaging with some groups.
Sure, thanks, Nick. And hey, everyone, I'm Amanda Leahy with Kittleson and Associates. We're the consultant team leading this plan in partnership with Ozzy and the city staff. And as Ozzy mentioned, this process began a few months ago, and we've come out for several events and activities. So one being the Bike Palo Alto event on October 1st, where we heard from 40 people overwhelmingly in support of separated bike lanes. We've also participated in 7 committee and working group meetings, and we'll be holding 2 more rounds of outreach over the next 18 months. So you can find us in March at the Pedestrian and Bicycle Advisory Committee, the City School Transportation Safety Committee, the Rail Committee, the Planning and Transportation Commission, and City Council. And we had an interactive map live for a couple of months where we got almost 1,000 unique comments, overwhelmingly expressing safety concerns for people walking and biking, and also indicating that there was upgraded infrastructure needed to keep people comfortable and safe while they're walking and biking. That's what we've heard so far. Today, we're coming to you to help develop our vision and goals for this plan. And then we'll hold, in addition to that series of working and committee group meetings, we'll be holding some design charrettes and a multi-day collaborative work session in mid-April. So thanks for coming out tonight. Look forward to hearing what you all have to say about this plan's vision.
Thanks, Amanda. I wanted to start out with a little bit of a celebration of walking and biking in Palo Alto. You've had so much success already, and it's a really great foundation to start from. Palo Alto really was an inspiration for me in it having the first bicycle boulevard on Bryant Street, really inspiring cities all around the country to rethink how they can serve people bicycling. 81% of Palo Alto residents live within a 10-minute walk to a park, and the city has better health outcomes than most other cities in California. With great weather conditions and a beautiful environment, it makes Palo Alto an ideal place for walking and biking. It has great connections to major destinations and regional transit stations, which makes walking and biking a real option for commuting in Palo Alto. And so you're really building on a strong foundation that can help you take your investments and opportunities to the next level. We're updating the plan from 2012 in part to reflect just the changing evolution of technology and tools and innovation. We've seen emerging infrastructure, we've seen new mobility options, we've seen a rethink of how we approach safety in transportation in the country, and we want to always continue to connect people to places. Emerging infrastructure includes things like protected bike lanes and protected intersections. These were concepts, ideas, and designs that did not exist in 2012 in any large way. And this is an opportunity to think about how do these new tools fit into our transportation system. We're seeing the rise of new mobility options of electric scooters and skateboards and electric bikes that can maybe open up access for people who are enthusiastic about this or can take advantage of what this new technology means. And the US DOT has formally adopted the safe system approach as the new guiding paradigm to address roadway safety in this country. And it works by building multiple layers of protection, looking at both to prevent crashes from happening and to minimize the harm caused when crashes do occur. Looking at all aspects of the system, from how streets are designed to how vehicles are designed and how people operate within that system. It's a revolutionary way of thinking that's different from the status quo and past ways of thinking about traffic safety in this country. And then, of course, we want to connect people to community destinations such as schools, parks, and commercial districts, making it possible for people to choose walking and biking as a viable way of commuting and getting to the destinations that they want to get to. So today we're here because we want your help to envision this future of walking and wheeling in Palo Alto. We want to understand the values that you have on mobility, walking, and cycling, and we want to co-design a vision statement that can capture the aspirations of the community. But first, we want to provide a little bit more background. We want to share some of the findings that we've discovered in early research to support this plan. One area we've looked into is focused on building bicycle-friendly communities here in America. Palo Alto in 2021 was honored as a League of American Bicyclists Gold ranking as a gold-level bicycle-friendly community award. It's one of the top cities in the countries for bicycling according to this ranking, and it's important to note that this is an indicator that we're doing some things right in the name of sustainability and good city building. We evaluated the results of the ranking and identified a few areas where continued expansion and investment can really push further for an even more sustainable future. First, important one, we're doing it right now. We're updating this plan for a lot of the reasons we've already talked about today, adding more measurable goals in order to track progress, in order to direct implementation funding. We need to start filling also gaps in the network and expanding that network. Your walking and biking network is only as good as its weakest link, and filling a gap can really unlock access to new areas and new destinations. We need to see some more increased high-quality bike parking so people can feel safe when they're parking their bicycle and feel like valued members of the transportation system, and to expand encouragement programs in order to reach even more members of your community. And these things can help fill the gaps in the system that we're already providing that's considered really great and help take us to the next level in terms of sustainability and effectiveness of our transportation system. Another area we did some research into is in the new forms of mobility that you're really starting to see on your streets. And we wanted to share a little bit more about what we had learned. The introduction of low cost and efficient electric motors and a huge improvement in battery quality and capacity, combined with high-speed mobile internet, has really enabled a really visible and also invisible transformation of how people and goods move across cities. The widespread use of internet-connected mobile phones has allowed shared mobility to take off, along with bike and e-scooter sharing systems being implemented in cities around the world. We're also seeing the logistics industry starting to grab onto this transformation with e-bike couriers and other light-duty vehicles such as drones and robots expanding to shape the future of how we move goods around. And I think it does us all well to think about this future as we're planning for the next 20 years. E-bikes outsell electric cars and are seeing a rapid adoption across California and the US. The COVID-19 pandemic ignited the popularity of e-bikes, with annual sales estimated to have increased from 240 million in 2019 to 885 million in 2022. In the US, e-bikes tended to be more attractive for older users, for those over the age of 55, who may not have the same physical fitness or mobility to pursue traditional bikes without assistance. But this trend is slowing as people of all ages and abilities begin to see the benefits of owning an e-bike. And that leaves us with a few challenges to consider. One, how do we ensure that our most vulnerable can stay safe when using e-bikes? Another thing to consider is how do we reduce conflicts between different vulnerable road users on our paths and streets as we start to see this new vehicle type that can move a little bit faster than maybe what we've been seeing before. There's been no shared micromobility in Palo Alto since 2016, and finding a place for these new forms of mobility on our streets will continue to be a challenge here and all around the country. While each mode presents unique challenges, these new technologies and systems are maybe not as drastically different from the traditional forms of mobility that we're used to working with. But it is important as we move forward that we find ways for high quality facility planning and design to ensure that shared vehicles are safe to use together. So how do we use all of these different types of vehicles together with traditional walking and biking? And we want a clear vision and a target group to determine the appropriate model for future shared mobility. How do we ensure that the system can work broadly for the community? With that, some framing, some understanding of where we're at and where we're going, we are ready to move into some interactive exercises. So this is where we're going to start spending time focused on the vision, identifying priorities for your values, submitting ideas to the project team, and getting into those breakout room discussions where you'll be able to elevate your ideas. To do this, we're using a platform called Mentimeter. This is going to use your telephone or your computer if you're at a computer and you'd rather do that. To do this, you sign in on a web browser to menti.com and you put in this code on your screen, and this will load up the survey website tool. And it's going to be pretty exciting. You'll start to see your responses all come on the screen at once. I'll give you a minute to log into the system, and we'll get into this first question. So I'll load it up right now. Up here at the top of the screen, you can see it's menti.com and code number 1393886.
I have also found, Nick, if you want to shift back to the QR code, that's also sometimes easy for folks on their mobile phone.
Okay, let me move back. For those of you who want to scan that in.
Just one last, one
minute. I'll take you to Menti. Yeah, no problem. I'm going in myself just to make sure this is all working.
But yeah, feel free to shift back to the other slide now so you can see.
Oh, I'm sorry. This looks like we got people who are figuring this out ahead of us. So here, maybe that number on that last screen has shifted. For those of you who are logging in, menti.com, use code 1393886. And this will give you an interface to be answering this question that's up on the screen. Okay, should be working now. What you can do on your phone or on your web browser is select those statements that are true for you. You can select more than one. You can be more than one of these things at once. And then be sure to hit the submit button at the bottom of your interface to send those answers our way. We're going to let this, so we got 12 people coming in so far. We're going to let this sit here as different folks contribute their answers. It's great that you're logged into the Menti system, and it's also showing us that this is working. So this is a good first test. We'll sit here for a little bit as we see the number of participants climb, just to make sure that this is working, that folks are able to join and use this tool, because this will be used for the next couple questions. All right, we've got a lot of avid riders, recreational riders, avid pedestrians. I like to see we got our transit enthusiast crowd here as well. Walking and biking and transit all go hand in hand. And then a bunch of us are jack of all trades, walking, biking, and transit. No racers in the crowd. That's all right. All right, we've got about 20 responses so far. I think with the number of participants in the room, I just want to make sure we're making space for everybody to get in here. Again, if you want to join this on this slide or on future slides, it's menti.com and it's code 1393886.
Hey, Nick and Ozzy, there is a raise hand.
Hey, Eric, what's up?
Eric, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Looks like we're not, Eric, we're not hearing you. If you've got a question for the crowd, you can submit it through the Q&A feature. It'll send questions our way, and we'll be able to elevate those questions during the Q&A period at the end of the workshop. All right. It looks like the last few are coming in. We've got a handful of responses. It's great. We've got kind of looks like maybe maybe twice as many people identifying as bicyclists as pedestrians. I can't tell if a lot of this is probably doubled up. People are both riders and pedestrians and transit enthusiasts, but this is great. This is showing us that you've got the system loaded up on your computer or loaded up on your phone, so you can participate in the next surveys and exercises. Okay, so with that setup out of the way, we're going to dive into some of the more of the interactive components. This is the framing exercises that we're going to start out with as we rank the following mobility values that we have up on the screen. I'm just going to read through some descriptions to give you a sense of what we mean when we use these words, although many of these are self-explanatory. This is really meant to give you a sense of the breadth of how your mobility system can affect yourself and your community. You know, it's not just about getting from A to B, but we can't always meet all of these goals. So by ranking these values, we'll get a sense of what values are most important to you, and it'll also help kind of expand your vision of what's possible as we move into the future exercises. So the first one here on the list is safety. That street design and traffic education and proper lighting are some of the key factors to allow people to move safely through the city. The safe system approach aims to eliminate serious and fatal crashes. The next value is community cohesion. The community members can develop a common way of life and a unique character to the city through how they get around. Another value could be pride and status. High quality and innovative traffic systems can inspire civic pride and elevate status for the city. Also, beauty and nature could be a value. The traffic system infrastructure quality can reflect the natural environment and aesthetic beauty of your community. Maybe your priority is that it's seamless and convenient. A seamless trip without experiencing any delays or barriers can be a reliable, convenient option for getting around. Of course, health is important. Walking and cycling are good for your health and can provide rest and relaxation. Exhaust fumes are a major problem for health and for the environment. Equity is an important value. Access to mobility for all is a prerequisite for equal access and for participation in society. People of all incomes, abilities, and ages should have the freedom to travel using their mode of choice. Connectivity, that improved mobility connectivity can increase access to jobs, amenities, and services. Maintenance can be an important value, that the design and construction and funding should consider long-term maintenance and repairs of the infrastructure that we build. And then universal accessibility, that the mobility system should provide solutions to meet the needs of all users with and without disabilities. So we're going to do another online ranking. Looks like we might already have a couple people jumping in, which is great. Again, log in at menti.com if you haven't already. Use this code. You can refresh your phone or your web browser if you want to see this question. It should load up, and you can start to rank these in order. You can drag them, drop, or tap on them in your order. And again, you have to hit that submit button at the bottom of the survey to send the responses our way. And one of the things that makes this really hard is that you have to kind of pick and choose amongst things that are important to you. You know, many of these, I think we can agree, are important values, and ranking them is kind of a hard exercise. It's not always easy to pick what's most important. You'll start to see these answers changing on screen. So as more and more, we got about 11 responses now. As more and more people respond, you'll start to see these shift up or shift down, moving around in response to what people are saying. Maybe those priorities are changing. And maybe you can look at this for a second, see how it's shaking up, see if you want to be inspired by what other people are picking. We'll let this settle for a little bit as more and more people complete the online survey. All right, looks like we've got a good number of responses submitted. I'm seeing a pretty, this last shift. I'm seeing a pretty clear priority for safety, definitely coming in at number one. It absolutely makes sense. It's a major priority for our cities and our communities. Coming in second nearby, seamless and convenient, removing barriers and making it an easy choice. Followed by connectivity. How do we make sure that everything we're building can connect and really spread across the city? The next round of values are all, kind of close together, but we do have a little bit of a priority here with healthy, maintained, universal accessibility, equity, community cohesion, beauty and nature, and then at the bottom, not a big priority, pride and status. This is good for us to know. This is good for us to keep in mind as we're continuing to craft this vision statement, and helps us understand where to put our energy, where to focus our resources as there's important decisions and trade-offs to make. Building off of this idea of kind of prioritizing words, we're going to move into an exercise we call the 3 words exercise. In this case, we're going to have you submit ideas to us. Maybe some of these are some of the same words we just saw in the values exercise, Maybe some of these are new words, new ideas, things that maybe, hey, I wish that you had this other value that wasn't on the list. This is your chance to start submitting some inspiring words of your own that describe how you'd like the city streets to look and feel in the future. And these words will be useful as we start creating the vision statement, and we'll be building on what you're submitting here as we move ahead. So I'm going to go into the next. Here we are, moving into the next question. People are jumping in already. You'll start to see the answers pop up if words are repeated, because we all have similar ideas. Those words will get larger. You might also see words that are similar that are both here. We'll be sure afterwards to recognize that some of those are kind of referring to the same thing, so that we can consolidate them into a core set of priorities. Like the obviously bikeable. We've got low stress showing up. We've got a couple low stresses. Those will be lumped together. Welcoming, I like that word. How do we make this welcoming for people so that they feel like it can be for them? Thoughtful, that's another great word to think about this. Protected, seeing if he's beautiful. I see beautiful. Biking first culture. Getting into culture, it's interesting. Shaping that. Recognizable. Attractive. Maybe it gets lumped in with beautiful. Vision zero. Important, related to safety, the goal of 0 deaths on our streets. Safe for all users. A lot of continued support for safety, of course. Green habitat, this is great. I like seeing these sort of connections to things like habitat. Flat, okay, flat and efficient. Maybe that's part of thoughtful routes. This is so great. You already can start to kind of see the painting of a picture of how a vision statement could be formed, assembling some of these core ideas, shared themes. I see a connection to transit. Someone put convenient transit. That's great. Bike ped priority. Clear markings, just getting into the making sure it's clear for people to see. Comprehensive. I think this is set up, you can submit multiple responses. So if you get inspired by these and want to keep thinking about it, I think we want to get good words, because your words here are going to help inspire the discussion that we're about to get into when we move into breakout rooms, where people can think about what they've heard here, what they see here popping up. Like this, designed intentionally, making good choices for thoughtful routes. Okay, this is great. I think we've settled. I think we've got the bulk of folks have responded. Bike forward. I'm loving all these words y'all are coming up with. And there in the center, you can really see what's holding true. Safe, connected, welcoming, convenient, low stress. A few of you are probably putting a couple of these in, and it can elevate some of these. So this is really great, and is an excellent foundation for moving into the breakout rooms. So we're gonna move into this interactive component where you'll get to build on these word submissions and start producing some actual statements. And you'll be doing this collaboratively in your groups with folks. I guess we weren't sure how many people were going to be joining us, so we weren't sure how many breakout rooms we'll break into, but we'll try to get you into groups that are effective for good discussion. And we'll step ahead here. So we're going to do vision statement creation. Our goal isn't, necessarily to come out with a perfectly crafted vision statement. Our goal is to start getting maybe some of those kind of key talking points, if you will, key statements that can be a part of this creation. And we're doing this so that we can get a broad set of ideas from the community, and so that we can find ways to sort of mix and match into a solid statement that can capture a lot of the sentiment of what we're hearing. And so we're going to be going into breakout rooms. You'll be working with others to craft a vision statement that can look ahead into the future of mobility in Palo Alto. So the breakout room facilitator will help guide you through some of this process, but ultimately you'll be trying to finish the sentence. In 10 to 20 years, walking and cycling in Palo Alto should be. And you can, build on those original values you looked at, build on the words that you had submitted to us, and start to articulate key sentences. And you can work with everyone that you're working with to refine those or tweak those, but also don't be afraid to add more along the way. And then if there's additional considerations that you want to submit that maybe they don't fit in that sentence format, we can add those as well for the team to think about as these are being combined. And in the end, we're going to share these back out with the larger group, and they'll be sort of translated, if you will, afterwards to try to create this strong statement that can guide all of our work. So with that, we're going to enter the breakout rooms. There may be a period of technical transition as we form the number of rooms and assign that facilitator, and that navigates through it. I think we're going to give ourselves a chunk of time so we can have good discussion. I think we're talking about 15 minutes or so, but when the breakout rooms are wrapped up, we can come back into this main room to share out what we've been hearing. We're all coming back from our breakout rooms. I got the pleasure of bouncing in and out on a couple of them to hear the discussions, the fun ideas that everyone was coming up with, watching the bullet lists. Some of them were getting long. We're moving into multiple pages. And so really appreciate everyone's participation with that. We want to take a moment and, I know we just sat down with our groups and talked about the key kind of bullet statements of what we imagine the streets to be like in the future. But I want to have a chance for everyone to share what they've heard in their group. Also, it's really great we're all getting to see everybody here in this moment coming out of the breakout rooms. So I want to invite our various facilitators. Looks like we had 4 breakout rooms. Invite a facilitator from that breakout room to share with us not every single bullet list item, but maybe if there are a few that sort of stand out as core themes or things that people were particularly enthusiastic about, to share that with us so we can kind of hear more other ideas maybe we didn't come up with in our own group. So I'll ask Aka, who I know was facilitating one of the groups. Aka, you want to share with us some of what you heard in your breakout group?
Yeah. Look, I think the first one that we got to was, just a safer environment for everybody, regardless of mode. And there was a little bit of discussion on, how do we also, have a self-reinforcing streetscape that makes driver behavior that much better. And then I guess the other big one that we had was, walking and cycling in Palo Alto should be the first choice mode of transportation. The first thing that you do when you leave the house shouldn't be to pick up some keys. It should be to, maybe go get your keys to, unlock your bicycle, right? Or to lock your door and then walk to, to do your errands. There was a little bit on being, easy to navigate as well. I think there was a, little bit of discussion on, maybe the network could be a little bit clearer, improved signage and wayfinding. And then we talked a little bit about parking and, making parking easy. And I guess finally, walking should be more comfortable, potentially more shade or, more trees, and, wider sidewalks in certain areas where you see more traffic,
And when you're talking about
foot
parking, you're
traffic.
talking about bike parking, right?
Oh, yeah, bicycle parking.
Yeah,
Definitely
just
bicycle
checking,
parking.
checking. Thank you for that. Nada, I was in your group for a minute. You want to share some of the ideas that came up? I know that this was a group that had a lot of great big ideas. So, maybe not everything, but just some of the highlights.
Yeah. So mainly there were a lot of common thoughts about like safety, wayfinding signs, and connections to neighborhood cities. They also shared about bike sharing facilities can be more convenient and friendly, and there is a major concern about that cross connections across the tracks and at major street intersections like Waverly and Seal, at Alma Street, Charleston, California Avenue. Mount Diablo has regular bike turnouts, and they thought that's safer, and it would love to see something like this in other routes. A couple of people mentioned that going downtown is not very pleasant, or biking towards University Avenue is not very pleasant when it comes to safety. And also there were like perspective that they are considering the plan to incorporate the ped and bike into infrastructure and execute the plan elements regarding safety and look into collision data to identify where are the locations that has safety issues. I would stop here. I tried to share the most common things during our breakout room.
Thank you so much. That's really great. There was another breakout room. It was both Kyle or Sylvia. Kyle, you want to share the notes from yours?
Sure. I think we had some of the same common themes that we had mentioned already, but some of our others, a lot of talk about separated TED and bike facilities, prioritizing those TED and bike facilities over vehicle traffic. It was mentioned about well-designed and appropriately sized separated bike facilities, kind of planning for the future. Improvements in areas of higher density housing. Supported Palo Alto, or walking and cycling in Palo Alto should be supported by programming for all, so like education and encouragement too. Talk about investing in more bike parking and secure bike parking, so you don't have to worry about your bike while you're in a store or wherever else you are. Mentions of equitable and accessible to everyone, whether that's geographic equity or some sort of bike share. So even if you don't own a bike, you can still have the option to ride a bike. And then maybe easier to walk and bike for short trips than to drive. So similar to saying to grab the bike first rather than your car keys. And then a couple of mentions of we want things to be more like the Netherlands. I think we've mentioned the Netherlands a few times in our group.
Thank you, Kyle. It's really great to hear. And then I think the last group, Amanda, you have notes from your breakout room?
Yes, I do. Pull up here. So my group also talked about safety as well as a complete street system that is efficient with well-connected routes that are convenient and direct and low stress and enjoyable. There was discussion of ease of travel across the city, across the railroad tracks, and across city boundaries, and an equitable ease of travel as well, so that places are easy and comfortable and safe to get to in all parts of the city. There's an interest in making walking and biking a more common and preferred mode of travel, and a particular focus on school trips and safe routes to school. And there was also discussion of overcoming physical and psychological barriers to walking and biking, and embracing incremental change. So whether that's replacing one driving trip a week with a walk or a bike trip, or implementing a near-term, lower-cost, quick-build treatment and not waiting for more funding to construct the longer-term project. And then finally, encouraging electric bikes and shared mobility and the coexistence of these modes.
That's so great. That's so great. Definitely, it sounds like we have a lot of options for us as we're starting to shape this vision statement. Some of them were broad, big dream ideas. Others were getting more specific, which is really fantastic for the planners here, who get to translate that into those performance objectives and metrics. So thank you for that. We're going to do one last Menti exercise. Let me share my screen again.
Nick, before we
yeah.
proceed, just wondering if anyone, just opening it up to the group to see if anyone wanted to share an additional consideration that they wanted to share out with the larger group before we move on. Just wanted to open up the floor. I know there were some creative ideas that I heard. One of which was to potentially, as a city budget, spend as much or more on bike and pet facilities on a dollar amount than we do for vehicles, which I thought was very aspirational. That's something I heard. Awesome. Well, thanks, y'all.
Thanks, everybody. All right, let me share my screen as we get into this last survey question. So what we want to do here is do kind of a check on our progress. We've done a few interactive exercises today for ranking values, submitting words. It was such a great discussion. We're not quite done. We'll be doing some Q&A at the tail end of the workshop. I wanted to take a moment. I'm sorry, we get some audio issues. I want to take a moment to just check and see how we're doing. And so we have a survey up. It's on that same Mentimeters. You should be able to refresh your survey and participate on this. We're asking the question, are these co-created vision statements that we heard today that we discussed in the breakout rooms, are they headed in the right direction? We just want to, see how we're doing. This is red light, green light, yellow light kind of choice here. So if you can come in here, let us know how we're doing. It'll help us make sure we're on that right track and see if we have to make any adjustments along the way. So we can take the ideas that you gave us with confidence and move forward with developing the more articulated vision statement.
Nick, can I ask you a question about the vision statement?
Yeah.
What's its anticipated use? Meaning, like, is it people who work for the city are going to turn back to the, like, I think of it as you look at the vision statement and that directs your behavior. Like, if something we're doing, look at the vision statement or mission statement, is it, if it's not furthering something there, then rethink whether that makes sense. Or is it just something, I don't know, something to talk about Palo Alto, this is our mobility vision statement or something?
That may be something we can discuss more in the Q&A. From my understanding, our hope is really to translate that into some tangible performance metrics, objectives and performance metrics that can actually influence the recommendations of the plan itself. And so that may turn into how we make recommendations about the types of facilities that we are planning for, how we make choices about how comprehensive the network is, how we make choices about how we make trade-offs. I heard a lot about making biking a preferred choice, perhaps over driving. There's choices we have to make that a reality. And that is the choices about where those routes are, what kind of interventions we put on those routes. And so, so it should kind of work its way down into some of these very tangible decisions that we'll be making as a part of the planning process. And then also for us to sort of hold ourselves to, as this is a statement in this city plan that says this is what we're trying to achieve here. And so it operates maybe on both levels as that aspirational vision, but also I think we're all hoping to have some very real tangible outcomes that come from this statement that's getting built today, or built after today's workshop. Okay, we have the survey results. Someone said we're not on the right track. We'll love to hear more about that. Feel free to leave some notes in the Q&A for us. But definitely it sounds like we're headed in the right direction. And so we'll be taking today's workshop results and sort of translating that and smashing it together into something that is articulate and clear that can hopefully capture the essence of what so many of you shared with us today. We want to move into a little bit of a Q&A panel with the remaining time here tonight. A few of you have been submitting questions to us throughout the presentation, and I think we've had some folks here. I think Amanda's been tracking these questions, and we're going to pick a lot of these to share and answer with Ozzy and Sylvia. So I think they're going to answer some of these questions, and we'll see what kind of space we have left for more. So I'm going to stop sharing so we can all kind of see each other.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. And happy to go through these. And if you have some that come to mind as we're talking, feel free to drop it in more questions in the Q&A, and we'll get to as many as we can. We have about a little over 10 minutes left here. But just to build off of what Nick said, I appreciate the question around the intent of the vision statement. I think at a very basic level, it's a vision statement for the bike and ped plan update effort, what we are doing now, at a very specific level, but it's definitely a vision statement that we can reference in our line of work beyond the plan update effort. But to Nick's point, I think what we're looking at is trying to develop a guiding statement, if you will, that we can reference and point to as we make decisions and recommendations and prioritize our projects and routes for this BPTP update. So think of it as something that we can lean on as we make decisions through this plan update effort. But I appreciate that question. I think there is a question here that speaks to what would a typical or random member of the community say characterizes a bicycle boulevard? Do our current policies support that characterization? And though we haven't done a formal survey asking community members this question, I think based on our preliminary discussions with committee members and working groups, what we heard from many people is that Palo Alto identifies Bryant Street as a prototypical bicycle boulevard, and it's something that we point to when folks reference that. So hopefully that answers that question. How important are connections to bicycle infrastructure in adjacent communities compared to bicycle infrastructure within the city of Palo Alto? How will Palo Alto mesh with regional plans? I would say, at a high level, we talk about building a network. And as you saw from today's exercises, folks prioritize that connectivity piece. And so from the city's perspective, we also feel that a truly connected and comfortable network extends across city boundaries. Obviously, this is a bike and ped plan effort for the city of Palo Alto, but it will speak to that network connection across those boundaries. As we know, as city riders, oftentimes you don't really notice when you're crossing city limits. And so again, it's that seamless interaction that I think folks are looking for. So part of what we've done through this engagement early on is ask our neighboring jurisdictions for their data and for their files to understand their existing network to see how we can build off of that. So that the coordinating and collaborating with adjacent jurisdictions, and again, to consider that continuity and connectivity in the network development process. Ken, I see your hand up. Happy to answer if it's related to this. If you want to drop another question in the Q&A, happy to take it that way.
Yeah, I've put a question in the Q&A.
Okay,
Maybe
we will.
not to handle.
Okay.
The other Ken. It was the other Ken.
Oh, sorry. Ken Joy had his hand up, but Ken, Christian, I appreciate the additional question. Third question, will you discuss how we did against the goals and metrics of the 2012 plan? That's the last update that we did to the BPTP. How are we doing on a 15-15 bike trip connected safe network goal? And so I think what we did is, as a starting point, a part of this plan is to, again, understand how we've done since the 2012 plan. And a starting point for that was a fellow colleague of mine in the Office of Transportation developed a BPTP project spreadsheet to understand the projects that were in the 2012 list and their current status as a starting point. But I think we still have more work to do in this space of understanding how we've done since the 2012 plan. So I think stay tuned for more information on that piece, but it is something we're going to be looking at. Sylvia, I see you came off the mic.
Yeah, I just want to share that our work trip, our bicycle work trip mode share. So the percent of the adult population that bikes to work is now around 9 or 10%, which puts us in like the top 5 of like communities in the nation. We are top 5 for that particular metric. So that's fantastic. But we still have, and we know that our students are biking at rates of, at high rates. Our secondary school students are biking at rates of 40, 50%. So that's all really good, but we still have a long ways to go. And this next plan will help us do more. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Arthur, I see you have a hand up. Is that related to the question? Feel free to chime in.
I have a question. What can we study to get grants for building infrastructure? For example, can we study building a bike underpass under the Caltrain at Rula Verde, for example?
Okay.
Therefore, kickstart that process by studying it.
Yes. So I appreciate the question, Arthur. There was another one here related to grade separation, particularly the east-west connectivity. I just want to highlight that a part of the scope in this plan is to help identify locations for appropriate additional grade separation crossings for bike and ped facilities. The prior plan spoke to those, and we will look to those as a good starting point, but there's been other direction from council more recently to look at additional site crossings. There's the Seal versus Kellogg discussion. There's the in the vicinity of Adobe Creek. Help me out here, Sylvia. I might be forgetting a couple, but nonetheless, the scope of this plan will look at the grade separations crossings, but I can't emphasize enough that it will be in the context of the network. We want to make sure that these grade separations crossings are in that context. So go ahead, jump.
Yeah. And the other piece to this, Arthur, and it's nice to hear you. I haven't seen you in a while. Is that council actually, council actually gave us permission, and I was able to hire an additional senior transportation planner to look into exactly the thing that you are mentioning. So soon, in about a month, this person will start, and we'll be looking into what we can do to advance, studies, grants into getting additional crossings. So thank you for the question.
And I see a question on here about referencing how we should be looking at Bryant Boulevard as the way to go as far as a model for that type of facility. Just highlighting that there was pretty clear input tonight around safety and connectivity. I think a question on here that I might ask Amanda to help me answer here is around upcoming and future opportunities for folks to continue participating in the plan update effort. I think we had mentioned earlier that we are looking at doing some spring activities around design charrettes. So if we could highlight some of those so folks know what's coming up. and just wanted to note that appreciate everyone jumping on virtually today. And I think we lucked out in the sense that we went with virtual only with this weather. Yet, just note that in the future, we are looking at opportunities to do some in-person and street level engagement. So please continue to follow the effort. But we appreciate everyone joining us virtually tonight, and hopefully folks can continue to join us in person.
Yeah, great. I do see some hands raised. We have 2 minutes left. I don't know who the order is. Can we start with Penny, then Jerry, then Ken?
I think Ken had his hand up first.
Okay, Ken, then
Jerry, then Penny.
Okay, reverse order.
I simply wanted to ask Ozzy, you were reading some questions, but I didn't see those questions in the chat pod. Should I have been able to see in the QA pod?
Yes.
Okay.
They should be in the Q&A pod. Jerry, what's your question?
Jerry, you're muted. Nice to see you, by the way. Still muted. Uh-oh.
There. Yeah, I just want to ask if people have been thinking seriously about the grade level thing, because that really is going to shape a lot of the bicycle decisions and activities here in South Palo Alto in particular. That's what I'm familiar with. So if you haven't been thinking about it, I would really encourage you to follow what the Rail Committee is doing and considering, because this isn't 5 years ago, right? We're in a different mode now, and things hopefully will happen. So please look it over, think about it, and see what we come up with.
Jerry, is there something in particular? We are following it, and we will be feeding into. We hope to be feeding into some of it, but is there a particular thing that you're concerned about with the grade separation?
Yeah, I would like to the extent possible that I kind of like the idea of a viaduct. I haven't seen anything yet to disqualify it, but the other option on our end seems to be the hybrid, which I think merits a serious look by folks who are opposed to a viaduct. Take a look at the second, what they would consider the best option if they didn't like the viaduct, because things are moving along.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank
Jerry.
you.
Yeah, and I can say I think this is definitely an opportunity to look at it seriously, as you put it. I think this is BPTP is an effort, so appreciate you making that comment and following the effort. Penny.
Thank you, Ozzy. So I just wanted to say, I hope that there's an opportunity in this to revisit Comp Plan Policy T41, which basically requires the city to keep all streets open, all neighborhood streets open as a general rule. This was like one of the reasons staff took a very different approach to the Ross Road Bicycle Boulevard and to Bike Boulevard planning in the, subsequent to the 2012 bike plan. And I think that is something we should address in this planning process. And it may be a revision of that policy, or maybe, a recommendation that it be deleted completely, either way. But I think that has gotten in the way of doing the kind of Bike Boulevard planning that some of the people here I'm hearing are expressing they'd like to see. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we will be looking at that. I know we're 2 minutes over. Really quickly, just some upcoming opportunities for engagement. We will be presenting at that round of committee and working group meetings in March. So look for us at Planning and Transportation, Parks and Rec, City Council, Rail Committee, Payback, and City School Transportation Commission. And then MobiCon staff will also be joining us for a multi-day working session in the April 16th to 18th. And then that Sunday we will be at Earth Day. And then we may be on a couple of community bike rides in partnership with Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition as well. So this will all be posted on the project website. But towards the end of March, I hope to see you all again.
Thank you all. And just in closing, it's cityofpaloalto.org/bike ped plan update. Thank you all and have a good evening.
Ozzy, may I ask one quick question? Are you going to be, if we've attended this meeting, obviously we're interested, are we going to be added to a mailing list and get regular updates on meetings, everybody in this group?
We would ask that folks sign up for the transportation newsletter updates to receive project updates. There's no specific project update list for just the BPTP, but we will direct folks to the transportation newsletter to receive.
Okay, so they need to go to the website and sign up. That's why I asked the question, so everybody knows they need to do that. Because we only had 33 people here tonight. Let's all help to push this out so more people participate.
Thank you. I appreciate the question, Penny. But yes, please sign up for the transportation newsletter update, and you will receive project updates as well as on the project webpage. Again, /bike ped plan update, and we'll put all those dates of upcoming engagement. But appreciate everyone's thoughts tonight, and excited to develop this vision statement that we'll get an opportunity to share with the community. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good
Thanks,
night.
everybody.